Good evening, everyone. Today is July 10th, 2025, and for the Bitcoiners in the audience, we are at block height 905,002, so 905,002. And as of today, as of later this evening, Bitcoin surged past 116,000 US dollars, another all-time high. So if you were watching my channel 24 hours ago, I put out a short saying Bitcoin is at all-time highs or approaching all-time highs. You should probably get some. If you would have followed my advice then, you'd be ahead a couple percent. If you would have listened to my advice that I gave a month ago when I started posting videos on this channel and started dollar cost averaging small amounts of Bitcoin from here to now, which is about 30 days ago, you'd be up a couple percent on all that money and feeling pretty good about yourself probably right now. So I don't know what else you need to see to know that Bitcoin is a superior asset to what you're holding, which is dollars. And you need to start paying attention to it and learning about it, because you just missed another good leg up in Bitcoin. And it doesn't mean you've missed the boat entirely and you should ignore it and say it's too late, but you should definitely get in on it so you can ride the next leg up when it inevitably goes up again. So what was today like for the typical Bitcoiner? That's not a multi-millionaire, billionaire, etc. Well, life's pretty normal. Worked, traditional job, spent time with the family, made dinner at home, went for a family walk, came back, checked up on Bitcoin as I typically do, and found out that it was up a couple percent, just like that. So by doing nothing but holding Bitcoin, I spent the day focusing on my life, working, providing value to others, spending quality time with my family, going for a walk, getting some exercise, and I was rewarded for holding Bitcoin. My net worth increased from doing essentially nothing, paying attention to my life, not to my money. And dollars have never done that in my life. At best, you put some dollars in a high yield savings account and get a couple percent interest at the end of the month. Bitcoin can do a couple percent in a matter of hours, okay? And it does. Now, it can go up, it can go down just as violently. So, did we pop champagne bottles today when we got the news? Did we go and get a fancy dinner? Did we celebrate? No. We continued living our life, and we will stack more Bitcoin tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. And over time, that Bitcoin will continue to appreciate and become worth more and more and more in terms of purchasing power over time. And so I can't think of a better example than what happened today, where you're holding some Bitcoin, you continue to do the normal things of your life, and you check your balance again, you still have the same amount of Bitcoin, but all of a sudden your purchasing power has increased. If you can't see that magic for what it is, I don't know what else to say. I don't know how else I can help you. But I did think of one example. So I come from a manufacturing background, and if you think of Jeff Booth's theory of the natural state of the free market is deflation. It's a statement that he says over and over again in almost every single interview I've seen, and everybody he says it to typically agrees and nods their head and says, yeah, that makes sense. So let's think of it in a practical example. Think of a commodity like a sheet of steel, hot rolled coil cut steel plate, okay? The ingredients that go into that steel have virtually not changed for centuries. The technical properties and characteristics of that steel have virtually not changed for centuries. What has changed is the amount of volume and the amount of automation that have gone into the steel making process. So volume in a manufacturing environment drives costs down, meaning you buy more materials at one time, you make larger batches of it at one time, so you get economies of scale. And then the other thing is automation. Furnaces are automated now. All the conveyors and lines that come out of those furnaces are automated. You don't have guys moving this by hand and additional labor and things like that. And then they're probably being cut automated, stacked automated, and then put onto trucks, whatever happens from there. All automated, very little human intervention and labor. So you're buying the same product, same steel plate that you would have gotten centuries ago. However, the volumes have increased, so you get the economies of scale on the materials and labor, and more automation has been injected into the process, which drives costs down because you're not paying for employees, you're not paying for health insurance, you're not paying for litigation and things like that comes with having employees. You're not paying for HR departments and all this crap. You're paying for a robot that does the same thing for cheaper. But yet, a steel plate today costs hundreds of dollars more per pound or whatever, than it did a century ago and 2 centuries ago. Why is that? Well, all those productivity gains that you're getting through economies of scale, automation, etc., are being evaporated by the diminishing currency that it's being priced in, and that is the dollar. So all of those productivity gains that the manufacturing sector is trying to provide and bring to the customer to get you better value is being wiped out. It's really hard to see because we're trained to think that prices always go up. It's just the natural state of the market. Prices go up 2-3% a year. Keynesian economics, that's what you hear about in school. Trust me, I studied it myself. I realized it's complete garbage. Studied Austrian economics, understand the truth, okay? Bitcoin is the truth. It exposes that lie. Prices for steel in Bitcoin go down over time. Bitcoin reflects those productivity gains that are happening in the market, and it's bringing it to you. If you buy and hold Bitcoin, it will bring those gains to you. I hope that example makes sense. Another one that you could look at is look at an automobile, a car, a Honda Civic, a very basic canned car, right? The Honda Civic since the early 2000s or even the 90s really has not changed. It's an economical sedan. The engine doesn't really produce more or less power, kind of does the same thing. Is it a little more efficient than it used to be? Probably. Does it have a little bit higher end transmission that times the gears a little bit better? Maybe. Is there more technology? You have Apple CarPlay versus a tape or a CD player. Sure. Okay. But those are what I would consider incremental improvements on the vehicle. It's still made out of basically the same components: rubber, steel, aluminum, fabric, different things. And it does utility function of getting you from point A to point B, but essentially the car is the same. Again, look at the manufacturing process for a Honda Civic. The factories have gotten bigger. They've leveraged more materials in a centralized place and maximized the economies of scale to produce them. They've drastically reduced the amount of labor. To say in 1990 they were using the same amount of labor per Honda Civic as they are today would be an absolute lie. If you look at automation, car production lines, like look at how Teslas are produced now, there's almost no humans involved with the production of a Tesla. I don't know if Honda Civics are the same way, but you can certainly bet there's a ton of automation in there. Would you not think that maximizing the materials and the economies of scale and the equipment and producing as many cars as possible and also implementing tons of automation would drive costs down? Look up what a Honda Civic costs in 1990 versus what a Honda Civic costs in 2025, 35 years difference. I bet it's 10x. I don't know. It's a lot more. And again, it's because it's being priced in dollars. And that inflation, the debasement of the currency is stealing from you every single day. If you look at the price of a Honda Civic in 2009, when Bitcoin was developed, to what it costs now in terms of Bitcoin, it's decreased. It costs millions of Bitcoin, full Bitcoins, back in the early days of Bitcoin. Now, it would cost you, I don't know, a quarter of a Bitcoin, if that. And in 2 years, 3 years time, it's going to be 0.01 of a Bitcoin, 0.001 of a Bitcoin. It's going to continue going down like that, further and further out. Dollars have never done anything like that. That is the value that you should have had being brought back to you. Think about this concept for a while. If you've been in Bitcoin for a while, you probably understand what I'm saying, and you're shaking your head and saying, yep, I get it, I get it. If you're not in Bitcoin, you need to start studying. Number go up is exciting. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to see your stack in terms of dollars go up. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin, really the true magic of it is returning that value that you should have had all along. And until now, we've never had a way or a technology to escape that thievery and that theft of inflation. So that's what I'm celebrating today. 116,000 a coin is absolutely awesome, but I'm also celebrating the increase in purchasing power that everybody is gaining. And everybody that's taken the time to learn and study Bitcoin and has been holding it and been patient, we're being rewarded. And it's a fantastic feeling. I want everybody to have that. That's why I come on here and spout off on YouTube. I want everybody to experience the joy that Bitcoin can bring to your life and the abundance that it will deliver inevitably to everyone over time. So exciting times. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.